All right, guys, here to talk about Season 3, Episode 29 of the Twilight Zone. So what did you think about this episode?
Not!
Good. So this episode's called 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock.
This is super weird. I'm obviously referencing the bird in the episode.
Yeah.
I keep saying nut.
I really was bored during this episode.
Yeah, did you remember this episode?
I had
Famous
no
episode?
memory of this episode
This
whatsoever.
episode was so strange.
It's about a guy who is meticulously keeping track of everyone in the world and how they are evil to different degrees, be it communist or promiscuousness or whatever.
He's a 4chaner.
Yeah.
He's out there doxing people left and right, calling them in the middle of the night.
Calling them or their bosses or whatever.
Yeah, their bosses or the authorities to get them in trouble. He thinks that, like, communists and I assume... Does he mention Jews or I just, like, project that onto his, like, personality?
You projected that onto him.
That's the usual meme, is like, oh, I doubt my message will get through because the Reds have taken over and all that stuff. He's a crazy person. I thought his performance was fine. I didn't really...
It was okay. His big glasses were fine.
Yeah, had some stuff going on.
No, it was interesting. The episode was fine, but ultimately I'm like, well, what am I even to believe here? Is this man powerful, or does he just have a wavelength of knowing that this is the thing that's going to happen? He's clearly evil too.
Yes.
Was he the only one affected, or was the whole world purged of its evil in the sense of 2-foot monsters?
The crazy twist here is that at 4 o'clock, at the titular 4 o'clock, when he decides he's going to will into existence that all the bad people should be made 2 feet tall and I guess harmless, or whatever his thought process
When
is.
I first pictured 2 feet tall, I wasn't picturing it properly. I was picturing like dwarves, like just smaller than average dwarves. But he shrunk down you held shift like control.
You grab the corner and you hold the button and it goes.
He was a tiny
You
person.
expected him to be squashed.
So I don't know what I was picturing. I pictured that they would cut to a guy with like his knees sitting on his shoes and he'd be like
oh no,
or something. But no, they are so small that if you shrunk all the evil to that size, they'd be useless. They would be useless.
I mean, yes, but
they couldn't open doors. Like they would just die in their homes.
I mean, I assume there'd be an emergency response and a whole nationwide critical alert.
I don't know.
Goes whatever.
Think about that rationally, though. Think about if
I am
40% of the population, I'm assuming only 40% is evil, just shrunk to the size of able to ride a cat.
Yeah.
What would you even do? Like what would the response even be?
If like that much of the population got changed, right? Including like I assume like members of Congress and like
political
FBI agents and like everyone or whatever. Yeah, we'd have to like redo the whole world so you could like step up onto things properly and add tiny little elevators and there'd be a whole thing. You could make a whole season of a TV show about this retarded
If you
concept.
literally knew though that everyone in the trunk was evil, do you think there would be the same attempt to help them?
I think this guy's definition of evil is obviously
it's certainly skewed.
So fast and loose that like a lot of people would just like lie and like whatever. I don't know how we're defining evil, and there's a whole deep. There's so much. So really, this asks so many questions. No, so like at 4 o'clock, he suddenly shrinks, and I thought maybe the bird was gonna be like a part of it more.
Like the bird would eat him or something?
Yeah, and like attack him or some great thing like that. The whole time, I thought like the bird was helping him pick who was evil. Because he kind of like gives the bird the nuts whenever he asks for it, and he keeps talking to the bird.
Yeah.
So I thought it was like a Summer of Sam thing where he was like getting his information from the bird or something like that. I kept looking for interesting things to happen, and then at the last minute, I like rewound it because I'm like I'm tired. I must have missed something, and I like rewatched the last 5 minutes leading up to him suddenly being small, and I was like, nope, he just suddenly is small. Like I don't know what the hell is going on. Not a big fan of this episode.
No, it really didn't have a lot to it because you really weren't sure what his criteria was. You didn't really get to learn much about him. Even when they introduced a character that was a victim of his thing, you're like, all right, so what am I supposed to believe here? And then it's kind of over before it really gets to anything.
Right, and like there's interesting like explorations of like how much he knows about his landlady, and then when that person comes,
he does seem to have some information, because how is he even, how would he know about this operation? How would he know any of this stuff? How would he know?
But that whole thing about, and she's like, he's a good man, he made a mistake, and he goes, he's evil, and all that stuff, and I was like, okay, and like. So, like, even if an episode of The Twilight Zone does not make sense, I need to be able to say, okay, it doesn't make sense, but it's, like, showing us how, like, oh, if your perspective is this, then you don't know that, and, hey, we assume this, but really that, or whatever. But here it's like, oh, don't judge other people, or else you might become small? Like, what do you mean?
Like, the act of judging others is the evil that got him, or does it take a disciplinarian capable of doing evil himself to even dish out this much evil?
Something about the being small part, though, like if someone engineered his demise who had their own even bigger list of who was evil or something like that, then like that would be this nice thing, and you could work in like a weird twist there. Like if they had I don't know, like if the FBI, I don't know. I don't even know how you pull that off, but you would have needed someone else to be trying to make everyone small somehow, and that's his right or something.
I think it's a little weird how he's Xing off the Gettysburg Address at one point.
Yeah.
That must have been hanging on his wall for years, and he's eventually like, you know what, I gotta correct that. Today's the day.
Today's the day. And I expected, like, we scroll down, it's the Constitution, it's the Declaration of Independence. He's like, no, parentheses, draw an arrow. It's like the Riddler's, like, scrolling. Yeah, it's this crazy thing. No, overall, really weird. Like a really grab bag of tropes and like things that should have been able to be an interesting payoff.
No, and the concept of a man who knows all this shit about people, that's interesting. Yeah. I think I would have needed a little bit of an insight of like where he gets it, something.
Yeah, well, that's why I thought it was going to be the bird. It was going to be this crazy thing where like the bird's in charge, and he just writes and like gives it nuts, and that's how he's and that's his role there or whatever. And it was some freaky thing or whatever. But no. And the ending shot even has the bird in it, and he looks up like, oh no, like the bird, and I'm like, wait, did you cut out? We're not able to pull off like the bird swooping, and then he's like,
probably not.
Right?
I don't know if they could have done anything because of what they were dealing with right there.
There was a situation happening, but yes.
Yeah, but it was fine.
Just cut to him like.
As far as effects go, that wasn't an egregious weird thing.
No,
the scale seemed fine. I do like the idea of a world full of tiny people.
Sure.
Would you, in this world of tiny people, do you think you would excel as a tiny person, or do you think it would be the worst thing ever?
Well, I think that Matt Damon movie attempts to answer the same question and was...
They go smaller.
Vehemently... Well, yeah, but it's the same. Like, you would use less resources and have potential benefits or whatever, right?
Picture just a one-bedroom apartment being 2 feet tall.
Yeah.
You could cut that bitch into 3 floors.
Exactly.
And have like a pretty good time.
Luxurious thing, and then whatever you had or whatever. No, I mean, most of my success in life is not based on my immense size, but I do think that, like, just the world would be too much of a pain in the ass. Like, I do a lot of typing and keyboarding and stuff like that.
Yeah, to be pushing your whole hand on a button.
Like, everything's just not made for you. So there's all these tiny things, right? If 40% of the world's gonna, going to become small, they'd probably start making tiny cars, and we'd have our own little lane over to the side, or just goes and all that stuff.
Yeah,
all the big cars,
tiny
just
cars.
Chill.
I feel like they would just make a little thing like when people have handicaps and there's just like an accessory, like you would just be in this thing because tiny cars wouldn't be that, like, they wouldn't necessarily go as fast, they wouldn't be as useful.
No, it's riddled with problems. It's very dangerous.
But I do like the idea of all the evil in the world being 2 feet tall.
Uselessly tiny, just pick them up. Oh, you're so cute.
Well, just picture them running amok, just tiny gangs, and they're running up people's backs and tiny stabbings.
There's a lot there that you could do stupid things with. But this is only the tip of the iceberg, and I just sat there thinking, is everyone else small though? Is he the only one who's small?
I would have liked any inkling as to if this affected anyone but him, or if he was just a madman. But like, you can't even say he's just a madman because
with mutant powers,
he did shrink.
Yes.
So he was right.
Right.
Even if just about himself, you can't write him off.
Part of me was like, was he always small? Like, that can't be.
No.
Like, none of this makes... Because, like, nothing makes sense, right? Because if he actually has these powers or whatever... Like, so is that the only way we can possibly interpret this? Is he didn't think he'd also be evil? and like be careful about judging and punishing.
I think
a whole
nobody
group.
thinks they're evil.
Yeah, but he's like a supervillain. He's like the most evil person
Yes.
I've ever seen.
Any other aspects
No,
of this episode?
I think we have a similar attitude here. It's like this is in like the curiosity column for me. A lot of these I'm like, throw them back.
It's not done cooking?
It's useless or whatever. But this I'm like, oh no, put this in like the other pile. Like if we have to leave in a hurry, we'll leave these. But this is weird. This is interesting. This is something strange going on.
No,
here.
yeah, there's
Yes.
something.
But I'm not. I
could have used 20 more minutes on this episode.
No, this is one that if we go read up on a thing, because there's a bunch of like resources dedicated to the Twilight Zone where they like interview the director or the writer of the episode, or someone goes back and like finds the original short story and compares what they adapted and how the real story is or whatever. So there might be more to find out here where you go, yeah. But as an episode, I don't know. I guess at the time, he's a small man was like the craziest thing, and that was enough or something. So good on him. But it's gonna be a thumbs down for me, dog.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that's our thoughts on this episode of Twilight Zone. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. Don't die in a fire, and we'll see you next time.
Hello, internets. I just love watching JustDaggers. If you've enjoyed this video as much as I have, click that subscribe button. Peace out, homies.